Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. Appreciate the opportunity, appreciate the invite. My name is Tyler Stoker. My wife is Katie. She's here with me as well. A little bit about us. In 2004, Katie and I got married, and we moved to Phoenix, Arizona right after we got married. Down there, she claims that I duped her into life, what I wanted to do. We went down there to go to Motorcycle Mechanics Institute, and I was attending that school for a time. At that time, Phoenix PD was hiring pretty crazily. They couldn't get the recruits that they needed. I went and applied with them, and I got hired, and that's where I started my career in law enforcement with Phoenix PD. Spent a year down there, and then we had our first child, Brittany, our oldest daughter, and Katie told me that she was not going to raise our children in Phoenix, and so it was time to leave. Phoenix was a good agency, and they treated me well, and I really enjoyed what they offered at that time. Katie's family was living here over in the west side in Dayton, and so that's kind of where that contact came from. The Preston Police Department at the time was hiring, so I reached out, I spoke with then Sergeant Mark Beckstead, and I filled out an application. Richard Olin, the chief at the time, denied my application because I had submitted it after their hiring period, and so they went with another candidate, and I don't know what happened, but a month or so later, Richard made contact with me, and things didn't work out with the individual that they hired, and asked if I was still interested, so I flew up, interviewed with Chief Owen at the time, and Neil Larson was the mayor at the time, and was offered the job. And so in November of 2005, we moved to Preston, and this is where we've been ever since. I've been with Preston PD since November of 05 to current. I'm still with the police department here. And during that time, Katie and I have continued to grow our family. We have 8 children. Our oldest is 19, and our youngest is just over 3, not quite 4. If I was Katie, I could tell you the months, but I can't. So, but that's where we're at. And our kids are all basically every 2 years, essentially. They're about 2 years spaced apart. So 19 down to 3. We're active in homeschooling. Katie runs a local co-op. She's heads that up and has for several years now. Our older kids our oldest daughter played for a little bit of school volleyball. Our other, Camry, Addie, and Evram were all playing soccer. So Camry last year was on the school soccer team. Addie's going to try out this year. She'll be a 9th grade freshman, so she's going to try out this year for that portion of the school. So we are active with the schools for that as well. Yeah, and we've just, during that time, the vast majority of our time, the very first part, we lived over on the west side down in the river bottom. And then in 2008, we bought a home right here in town. That's where we've been ever since then. It is just right up here on 200 East. And like I said, just continue to grow our family and live our lives and learn the job and do the best we can for the community. We enjoyed coaching the kids soccer during the rec league during the summertime. We've done that for a few years now. So that's been really fun with little kids. That's really kind of about us. How much time am I?
You got like 4, I did the wrong math too, so you can take 8 minutes. You're like 4 minutes. And when I say don't get into policy or anything, like you guys can talk about like how you want to see the sheriff's department. We just don't want to get into like any mudslinging. Like that. So you can talk about
well, how about this? I'll talk about what I do with the police department, what I did do.
Yep.
So with my time with Preston PD, this November will be 19 years with the city, with law enforcement with Preston. January was 19 years total, including me. So I've been doing this for over 19 years now. Since I've come to the city, at the time when I started, Ken Geddes was the resource officer for the county over the high school. And so I started working with him real close, and during that time frame, and since then to current, I handle the vast majority of all the sex crimes that come into the city, and then I assist the county real heavily in theirs as well, helping them with the interviews and interrogation portions of those things, and the interviews of the persons who kind of make up the fit for my environment. So that's kind of what I specialized in over the years, and what I kind of mostly oversee. In 2019, our then chief, Mike Peterson, retired, and Dan McCammon was promoted to the position of chief of police, and then we did a testing process in-house. and I was promoted to the position of sergeant with the city police department. For our agency, the chief and the sergeant are the two that manage and run, so I would fall second in charge for our agency. And so my day-to-day responsibilities are, is I oversee all the ongoings of the officers and everything it is that they're working on doing. So I manage their reports and oversee everything. Nothing leaves our building to go to the prosecutor and or the courts without first going through me. And the purpose for that is I can oftentimes catch the things that are missing to make that report an actual, if you have a crime, there's elements. And if you don't have the elements to the crime, then you have no crime. And so it's important that our officers are typing good quality reports. So I oversee all those things. I review their body cam footage and just kind of pull samples, or if something happened in the report that catches my attention, I go back and I review those body cam footages as well. So I manage all that. I help them with their cases. I help them with their interviews. I help them with interviewing suspects and victims along with them as they're working those cases. I help manage their time so that they are getting the hours they're required to have and then being productive with the hours that they're putting in. And I manage the overall schedule. So one of the things that I did coming up on 2 years now is one of our officers, Nick High, I took him off of a shift, so we work 4 10s. I took him off one of those, so he's only responsible to answer 911 calls 3 times a week. And then we left that 4 shifts so that he can focus on drugs in our community. And from that, we've seen in this last year a real benefit from that. And we've been able to serve a lot of search warrants in this last 10 to 11 months. And we've removed a lot of drugs from each one of those homes and helped people handle and not them before the courts. So those are just some of the things that I oversee and do on the day-to-day operations with the city police department. The chief handles the mayor and the council. The chief handles the budgets. And he asks me for input on the budgetary things when that time comes, as far as like the needs of the officers' equipment, and all those, our day-to-day uses, our day-to-day needs. The chief handles all that, and I listen there to give input and advice on what I believe that we need for our officers. But that's what I do on the daily, is just, I also take calls. I'm also responsible for shifts. And the way I've kind of managed my time is I don't put myself on a schedule per se. I leave myself off, but the moment any officer has a day that they need off, or time they need off because they've got a kids game, or they've got too much calm time, or they're maxing out their vacation time, they get that day off and I'll step in and cover that shift. So I'm all over the place on my working days. This week, Tuesday I was day shift, yesterday and today I'm night shift. I'll have tomorrow off, and then Saturday and Sunday I'll be night shift, and then they cover those calls. And so that's kind of how I work my schedule personally, is so that the officers can maximize their quality of life as well for those events that come up, because everybody's got kids and everybody has things that come up and they want to go support their kids and they want to be able to see those things. So I try my best to accomplish that and still provide the coverage that the city needs. So that's kind of what I do. And thank you.
Perfect.
I'm Micah Talbot. I started my career back in 1999 at the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office. When I hired on, it was a different time frame. There was 300 people that kind of applied for it. I was trying to apply for the jail at first. 300, and then you go and do the physical, it kind of weeds out about half of them. I made it through the whole process because they were trying to build the new jail. When I started, it was in the old jail on, where the library is in Salt Lake County, or Salt Lake City. That's kind of where the old jail was. So it was massively roach infested, just kind of diminishing. They upgraded to a population of 2,400 inmates capacity out of the new jail. So we went over there. I started in housing. I went to mental health. I went to MCERT. So MCERT was a movement critical incident response team, so kind of like a jailhouse SWAT team type thing. I went from there to training and started doing teaching the new recruits for defensive tactics and impact weapons and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I started. In 2008, I went out to the road, got that opportunity to put in the road. The road was a good opportunity. I ended up putting myself through the second portion of the academy just because I was trying to make myself more sellable. So I graduated in December, got offered in January, and started in February. So went out on the road in December or February of '08. Married my wife in August of '08, 888, okay? So she made it so it was like easy for me to always remember. When she grew up here, and she kind of had ties, so we've been coming out here since probably, well, I have been coming out here since about 2006, and just kind of loving every time I come out here. Her family's out here. Parents got divorced when she was 6 years old, and that's her tie to Sandy. So that's kind of how I met up with her. She never wanted to really, she kind of enjoyed being a city girl, never wanted to really come back here. After my time with Unified Police Department, Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, right after all the riots and things, her dad and mom here, dad and stepmom, Steve Berquist and Rose Berquist, they sent me a thing. I think it was just more of a joke, like, hey, these guys are hiring, sheriff's office is hiring here. So I was like, well, I showed her and I go, what do you think? You know? And she's like, do it. So I said, okay. So I did it and got hired. And I don't think she really thought it would happen that fast. And it was a hard adjustment for her. But we ended up moving out here. And it was good because her grandpa just passed away, Larry Bradford, with cancer. And so we came out here to kind of be with Grandma and see how that went. I came out here just to be with my family. I wanted to kind of slow down. The big city life was the big city life, and I kind of wanted to kind of keep that, get that away a little bit. That last portion of the city life was the riots that we dealt with, and just going, you know, I got called in on that day, and the girl flipped, the people flipped over the cop car, and the girl went and did her business on the cop car. But that's right where I was, and so we were kind of constantly trying to push everybody out and leave the city, but we lacked a lot of support from local leaders, and so that's kind of it was a rude awakening where when you lack that leadership backing, there's a problem. So that was my big eye-opening experience. When the opportunity came to come out here, I was like, yes, I'm going. So we came out here, been here ever since. We ended up buying property at Cub River, and before then it was like hard to go back home. And so we ended up just making the solid move. Came here, loved it. My wife's been working with Northern Title in Malat as the office manager there, and I've been working with the sheriff's office for the past 3 years. So I'm working on my 25th year in law enforcement. My last 6 years, my last 6 years out in Salt Lake County was school resource officer and community-oriented policing detective. So basically, I've dealt with a lot of the community stuff that I feel that we lack here, and I'd like to kind of bring some of that here. And I think if we can direct our kids, besides probation, and direct them to positivity, I think that they'll flourish. And I think if that does happen, then the community flourishes as well. So something that we can benefit from as a whole, we gotta harness that, right? So that's my goals. I was looking through pictures with one of the people I was visiting the other day. I had 5 cadets in that picture. 4 out of the 5 are now officers out in Salt Lake County. So it's proven to work. We have that resource that we can kind of direct those kids, and I think that we can be positive with that. So that's me in a nutshell-ish. Is it good?
Yeah, you got a minute more. Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep going. So Like I said, my point was, I didn't come out here to run for sheriff. I saw a meaning to run. The last thing in my mind was being a politician, going for that, authority. If I can get in there, I wanna be the team leader. I don't wanna be that looked upon as an authority figure. This is our community and we gotta work together. And I wanna bring that together, that divide between law enforcement and the community. So that's me in a nutshell. I'll stick around a little bit if you guys have any other questions, but other than that, thank you.
Everyone, for giving up part of your day to be here and allowing us to take part of your meeting. My name is Mike Wilson. I was born and raised in Clayton, Utah, on a small farm. At the age of 12, I went on the farm and started working for neighbors' farms, and then I started landscaping. But before that, I'll tell you a quick story that'll tie in later. When I was in first grade, I was sitting on a floor like this, and we had these two big burly guys come in and they were talking to us about safety. And one of them pulled out a set of thumb cuffs. Well, these two big burly guys were our Layton City cops that were talking to us about the safety of the training, danger and all that stuff from strangers. But I laughed at him when he pulled out these little thumb cuffs. And he asked me why I was laughing at him. He said, "Come here." And he put them on me and he twisted my hand so I had to stand up on my tippy toes, and I quit laughing at him. I'll come back to that in just a minute. So at 16, my friend and I started my first business. We started doing lawn care together. And then I started landscaping. Went into that. I learned the value of a dollar. It was important to me, not only for myself, but for my family, on how you spend your money. And then I went on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I went to Peru. I learned Castellano, or Spanish, which when I came back from my mission, going back to that little kid, I always wanted to be in law enforcement because of that experience. But my friends told me, no, there's no money in it, go to college. So I did my first year going into criminal psychology. Well, I soon learned that in criminal psychology, there's not much more money than in law enforcement, and it's 8 years. So it's a lot quicker to go through the post-academy. So I put myself through the academy. Before I graduated, I was already hired in Weaver County, and I did 9 years at Weaver County. So at Weaver County, I was in patrol for a little while, went into the jail. When I was in the jail, I assisted with canine training. I went into negotiations because I thought that was pretty cool to negotiate with people. And that really opened my eyes to humans. At first I thought in law enforcement, it's all about throwing them on the ground, lock them up, and be done with them. When you negotiate with somebody, you have to get to know them personally and their family. And I found that most people that we were dealing with were good people that had just made a bad choice. So it changed my perspective on how I dealt with people. And I kept that throughout my career in law enforcement. We went through growing pains with the jail as well. We had to open up a new jail down in Kiesel, and we've been sued for it because we were housing 6 people in a jail cell built for 2. So because of the training need and all the new hires we had, all of us that were there with new trainers, they sent us back to post and to Fred House to become instructors. I chose to do the combat stuff, so I was the tactical team, I was hand-to-hand combat, all that stuff, and then I continued my negotiations. Once we got new people on board, I chose to go more into transportation. I assisted in courts with translating for the judges and stuff. And there just came a time where my family wanted to move out west a little bit in the Clinton area, so I decided to go work for Clinton PD. So after 9 years at Weaver County, I went to Clinton City. And in Clinton City, I was only there for about a year before I was put in investigations. And I became the firearms instructor and then the tactical firearms instructor. I really enjoyed guns, and so that's why I kept going down that path. With the city, there was growth going on that we really didn't catch on to as a police department. And when I was there, I was number 7 that was hired on, and we had 10,000 people. Within about a 6 to 7 year period, we'd blown up to 20,000 people in the city, and we were in trouble. So because of all this, happened to be there again and do things. At that time, I actually had gone from corporal to sergeant. We had to get new people, so I learned how to do grants. I learned how to find grants, not just from the government, but from individuals and businesses. And so we got grants for officers, for vehicles, for radios, for everything that we could. But I saw a disconnect in the community. And so we sat down and we said, what can we do to build the community closer to us? And as that negotiation came in, Well, I went to FBI negotiation school, and when I went to that, they told us that the more you know your community beforehand, the better off you're gonna be able to negotiate during something, right? And that's true. If you know your community, if you know your farmers or business or whatever it is, you already have a little bit of idea of what's expected in their life, and you can have a little bit of empathy when you're dealing with them. So we wanted to start some programs, so we started Citizens on Patrol, where the citizens actually got to come out and ride around with us. And then once they learned what we were looking for, they got to pair up and they could just go out, and they were an extra set of eyes. They never got involved in anything. They just were an extra set of eyes. They could contact us and let us know what they saw. Well, we started to grow the community. They started talking to us more. And then we did a Citizens Academy. Well, Citizens Academy is just those of you that are older know what Cliff Notes are, you younger ones don't. We used to cheat with them into a book report, okay? So, Cliff Note version of the police academy is what we would put the citizens through. And it really helped because the very first time that we did it, we had a lady who had been critical of an incident that we had had, and how we handled it as law enforcement. Well, after she went through that class, she came and apologized because she realized why we did what we did, because of the split-second decision we had to make in that scenario. And so she went and got all of her friends, and we kept doing this academy over and over, and I hope they're still doing it, because after we put people through it, they understand why we do some of the things we do, and how we do it. And so it goes back to what Michael was talking about, is having a community that's closer together. If your community is closer together, you're gonna have less crime, because you're watching out for each other, and you're watching out for what's going on around you. And so I have a big desire for that. So, I retired in 2013. I moved my family up here in 2012. I've been coming here since I was about 9 years old. My sister, Deborah Sharp, married Kevin Sharp, and I've been up here forever. So I've been here part of the rodeos and for all the head races. Never heard of that before, but I came here, you know. So when I retired, I opened up a gun store in Logan, a pawn shop gun store, and I was done with law enforcement. I had a group of people come and ask me to run for sheriff last time. So I sold the pawn shop, and I ran, and COVID hit. So I could not do this. I couldn't come out and visit people and couldn't do anything. So the same people asked me to run this time, that's why I'm running for sheriff. I have a deep passion for this community. My children have all been married here, their spouses are from here, so our ties are here. I have 7 grandchildren now, I have my 8th one coming, and I'm dedicated to the safety of the community and bringing the community closer together. I have a lot of skills that came from my career to be able to help with all of this. And I just want you guys to know that you're what matters. You are what makes the sheriff. The sheriff is elected by you. So you're what's important. So, thank you.
I'm Jason Gunderson. I've lived here for a very long time. I'm a graduate from Preston High School. I'm married, have been married for 33 years. My wife Barbara, we have 3 boys. I have 3 grandchildren, 2 girls and a boy. I own 2 businesses. We just recently grew and was able to move out to Lewiston to a building there. Our first business is Battle Creek Outfitters. I'm in the farrier industry, so we manufacture horseshoe shafts for barriers. Then a few years later, we started to get into guns. We really like guns, and so we started carrying guns. And we discovered that gun belts were not very comfortable. So we went to work and we started designing gun belts, and that business took off as well. And so we started getting into competition shooting and things like that. And then when COVID hit, we started to notice that our rights were basically in jeopardy. And so we started to do what's called tactical training and that sort of thing. And we've been blessed to have Josh Burnett with me. He's a former Navy SEAL. We've done several hundred hours of tactical training with him. And that leads me to why I want to run for sheriff. I feel that the world is not the same as it was even 5 years ago. And what we have seen, and everybody can agree, that the job of the sheriff is to protect the constitutional rights of the citizens, right? We've seen failures on the parts of sheriffs all over the country, not protecting people's rights. And that is the first and foremost job of the sheriff, is to protect the citizens from all forms of tyranny. And so, anyway, the sheriff's office is a political office. I have no experience in law enforcement, but there's plenty of people that are in law enforcement that have that experience, and that we can run an effective sheriff's department because of other people's experience. And then, as you know, like I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I started 2 businesses from thin air with no money, right? So I can pretty much do anything, I can learn anything. I have management skills, also have building skills. We've been able to manage this tactical training group for over 4 years, sorry. And that takes a lot of organization and a lot of dedication. And so anyway, that's kind of where we're at. I just want to protect the rights of the citizens against all forms of tyranny, foreign and domestic, as we've seen, with the recent developments at the border. Director Ray from the FBI has put out a warning that sheriffs need to train and organize with the citizens because of the threat that has come from the border. So we'll be able to do that. Josh Burnett, former Navy SEAL, has agreed that if I win, he will come on work for me as the chief deputy. We will see a very high level of training for the sheriff's department. Hopefully we can work together with the police department as well and make training a high priority for everybody. One of our focuses is actually on school security. We want to make sure that when the kids leave for school, that their parents don't have to worry about being on coming home. So a lot of emphasis into that. We'll have programs with the teachers, because that is our first line of defense, because they are there, and that is the most efficient way. And then also with the local law enforcement officials. So other than that, that's all I got.
You can share their number. If anybody's interested in getting their phone number and speaking to them outside of here, that'd be great too. Also, we didn't ask you guys, if people have questions and want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach out to? Are you open to that? And then what's the best way to? So just, if you want to give your phone number, or if you just want to stay call, and then afterwards we're gonna, because there's only enough chairs in here for people that are supposed to be in here. Some occupancy rule for the fire marshal. Luckily, we don't know where he is, so. Afterward, I called him and said, do you have more chairs? And he said, no, and I said, what are you gonna do if we have more people? But afterwards, we'll go outside, and then you guys can kind of hang out, and if you guys want to ask questions, get phone numbers from them, all that kind of stuff, we can do it. We can do it outside. Anyway, if that's all right, is that cool with you guys? You go outside and answer a couple questions and give your phone number out. Same thing with Levi and Chris. If you're interested in talking to them, I can give you that phone number afterwards. Okay, Marcia's gonna take some time to tell us about voter registration, that kind of thing. And this one you can grow with question and answer, so let her have it.
I just want to real quickly announce, well, first of all, I was talking to we have our county clerk here, so I want to check my information with Mel. You need to go into the back of the clerk's, like the back of the new part of the courthouse, take the elevator up 1 flight, and you'll be in the clerk's office. It did move recently, since you may be aware. So you can go in and pre-register to vote. You need to vote if you're going to declare, if you're going to be able to vote in this primary, because it's a closed primary. You have to declare as a Republican if you want to vote for a Republican candidate. So if you go in, you can pre-register until the 26th of April. If you miss that deadline, you can still register, but you'll have to wait until the day of the election, which is going to be cumbersome and a lot of paperwork and take a line to get through and things like that. So best bet is go in before the 26th and pre-register with the clerk's office. They'll ask you for some ID, and you're going to have to match like your Idaho driver's license matches the address you live in currently, those types of things. passport. So there's a little bit of work there. You can go to franklincountyidaho.org, and they've done a really good job setting up the election information for us. So you can go to that website. You can also go to voteidaho.gov, and that'll give you even more information about what's going on besides just this local election. Our job as a chamber is to help public policy come forth. My job on the board, to help public policy be easy access for you. That's one of the benefits of being on the chamber and being part of our chamber, is to be able to be more aware of what's going on. That's why we hosted today. We come in here unbiased. We want to just give you information, let you filter out what you want. But I wanted to make sure you know about the difference now. If you can't just show up on May, whatever the day is, tell me that day. 21st and vote. You have to pre-register. So that's just a difference for all of us. I wanted to make you aware of that. And also, the clerk's office, tell me the hours, 9 to 5?
9 to 5.
Okay, is there anything else I'm missing, Jamel?
That's great.
Thank you. Appreciate your help. Appreciate you coming out today.